Today, we are looking at finding the function value of a derivative of an inverse. And we want to be able to do it without finding the inverse and without finding the derivative of the inverse. But to be able to figure that out, we first need to
Take the derivative.
first need to find the inverse and take the derivative of the inverse. And we're going to notice something that's going to help us to do this without finding the actual inverse or taking the derivative.
So how do you find it?
So
we have to learn
So
this
basically, we're just gonna
special
look at it and know the answer.
So we
Because
have
it's
to
just
learn
facts.
the steps to know how to find the derivatives.
Correct.
Okay.
It's
That
versus
just-
no
that makes a lot
negative.
more sense.
Minus
What'd you say here?
Never mind.
1.
So we need to remember we've got this function f of x equals x cubed plus 1. We need to remember how to find the inverse of a function. So what do we do to find the inverse of a function?
Flip it.
Change the sign.
What do you mean flip it?
You put f and then -1.
Change all the signs.
Oh, come on. They knew it last time. Right?
Reciprocal.
What'd you say, Karen? Switch x and y.
Good job, kid.
So I'm going to have x equals y cubed plus 1.
That's what flip it means.
That's why I was asking you to explain what flip it meant, but you wouldn't do that.
That's not what flip
So-
means.
Alright, now what?
Solve for y.
Solve for y. So I have x minus 1 equals y cubed. Then what?
Cube root.
Okay, so the cube root of x minus 1 equals y, but we're going to go back and call it the -1. What does the -1 mean?
Inverse.
You're dealing with the inverse. Okay? Now, in the calculus world, they usually will label this function without using the inverse, and they will say something like g of x equals that. So what are they telling me about g?
G of x is f prime.
G is the inverse of f. Okay? So g is the inverse of f.
So
Alright.
will we
So-
have to like write that at the top of the page, like whenever we're doing? Like,
They'll tell you that.
Okay,
This will be included in the problem.
gotcha.
Alright, so I have f of x equals x cubed plus 1, and I have g of x equals the cube root of x minus 1. Alright, so now let's find the derivative of each of those. So the first one is pretty easy.
Why are we finding? Why is that? Are we finding the derivative of that?
We need to find the derivative so that we can see the relationship and then use that relationship going forward. Alright, so I found the derivative of that. What's the derivative of g?
1/3.
1/3 x minus 1 to the
-2/3.
-2/3, so I can write it as I can write it as 1/3 times x minus 1 to the 2/3, correct? Alright, now let's look at some ordered pairs. Would everybody agree that the ordered pair 2, 9 is in F?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
There's no negatives or there's no zeros in the top.
That's not what I want to hear.
Okay.
Thank you. If I plug 2 in, 2 cubed is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9. Now, if 2, 9 is an ordered pair of F, what does that mean an ordered pair of G is?
9/2.
9, 2. Okay, why is 9, 2 an ordered pair of G?
Plug in
Because they're inverses, and how are inverses and the function related?
X and
X
Y.
and Y are switched. Okay? So, if I'm going to plug one of those in, 2 or 9, what is it I'm going to plug into F prime? I'm going to plug in 2. Why am I going to plug in 2? It's the x value. So I'm going to plug in 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. If I want to plug something in over here to G prime, what is it I'm going to plug in over here?
12.
I'm going to plug in 9. So if
Why
I
9?
plug, why 9?
Because that's X.
Because it's the x value of G. You always want to plug in your x value. Now, when I plug in 9, 9 minus 1 is 8. What does the 2/3 want me to do to 8?
Square root.
Cube root it and square it. So the cube root of 8 is 2 squared is,
4.
and 4 times 3 is So, what is the relationship?
Reciprocal.
They are reciprocals of each other.
So you don't have
So you
to
can just find
So what we do
or
is
the derivative.
find the derivative of x and then plug in the
X.
y.
You find the derivative of the x, you plug in the x, and then the inverse is the answer.
You're not supposed to use.
Not true.
Okay, so here's what the problem is going to ask you to find. The problem is going to ask for, they're going to give me f, and they're going to ask me to find g prime of 3. I mean, sorry, not 3. Where did I get 3 from?
9 or 2?
There we go. They're going to want me to find g prime of 9. So what is the process going to be in order to find g prime of 9?
You have
Find
to
the
plug
f
9
prime
in
too.
as the y value of the thing. And then it'll give you the x value to plug in.
Very good. You're missing one small step though.
Oh.
The x
And then
value.
you have to flip it.
The x value to plug into the
Original.
derivatives.
I don't understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start over. Let Sam do it. Do it again, Sam.
Okay.
It doesn't give you the order pair 2 9.
Most of them will, yes. But let's see what she's
Okay.
got first.
So
Go back.
since it's g is the opposite of f, or
The
it's
inverse.
inverse. And so if it's 9 over here, that'll be the y value on the original one. So you have to plug it in for the y value on the original one to get the x value so that you have the y value to plug in over here.
What?
You're on the right track.
So
I don't see what you can do.
All right. Let me recap what she said. She realized that 9
I know what you're saying.
9 is the x value of the inverse, which means it is the y value of the function. So I plug the y value in here and solve for x. That gives me
Yeah, that's fine.
the x value.
Plug the
Alright.
y in for
You plug
I
that
thought
x
she was
into
saying
You
the
like
put
put
the
9
y
there
value
instead
into
of
the-
x.
over there.
She was saying put y in
So
here,
you
correct?
plug in y right there, you solve for x, you plug that x into the derivative, and then flip it.
There you go.
but if it gives you the order pair,
Then I don't have to worry about finding it. I've already got it.
But it won't always-
you plug in the x.
Yeah.
I'll give you the
Correct.
plug it
Alright,
into
so-
the derivative.
Here's what we've got. We need to realize that 9 is the x value of the inverse, which means it is the
Y value.
y value. I've got to have the x value that goes with that y value. Once I have the x value, then I take the derivative and plug in that x value, which gives me this. Once I have this, then what do I do to get my answer? Then I take the reciprocal to get the 112. Okay? That's what's going on there. Now, there is a way to represent this as a formula. So let's see if we can come up with that.
I'm never good at it.
So we're going to have 1 on the top. Now, how do we end up getting 12 on the bottom? What do we do to get 12?
F prime.
X prime y.
First thing, what's the first thing we had to find?
X.
We had to find x. So how can we find x?
Is it g of y? Is it 1 over g of y?
Say it again.
Is it 1 over g of y?
Nope.
Whenever f of y.
1 over g
You're
of
close, but I want to replace that y with something else.
G prime of x. Or
One over
G
X.
x of g.
Shoot.
G of x.
G of x.
G of x. So, G of x.
Inside.
G of x gives me
That x value.
the y value of the inverse, which is the x value of the function. Okay. Then what do I do with this value?
Inside f of x. Or
It's
f of
inside.
x.
It's inside what?
It's f of g of x.
F in
F prime.
F prime. That goes inside of F prime. So this, if you want a formula to it, that's the formula that takes care of it.
Every time.
Scary.
Every time. Okay, so if you want a formula, you can do it that way. On both of these next two problems, we'll try to do it with the formula and without the formula to see how you guys like it. Wait. All right. Did somebody say wait?
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. All right, so let's look at the first one. It says let f be the function defined by f of x equals 2x plus 1 cubed. If g of x is equal to f to the negative 1 of x, what did they just tell me about g? Inverse of f. Okay, and g of 1 equals 0, find g prime of 1.
Also, you just plug in 0 to f prime.
Plug in 0 to f prime. And
Flip it.
flip it. So what do we want to find first?
Derivative.
We want to find f prime. Okay, so f prime would be 3, 2x plus 1 squared times 2. So So f prime is 6, 2x plus 1 squared.
Oh, wait.
So you plug 0 into that.
So now I plug 0 into that. And 0 is going to end up giving me 6. And as soon as I find that, I automatically know what? I know g prime of 1 is 1/6. Now, there's something we didn't do on this problem that I would like you to do every time you do one of these function and inverse problems. Okay? And that is write down the ordered pair of both. Okay, what ordered pair did they give me to start this problem with?
1, 0.
1, 0, what did it belong to?
G.
It belonged to G. So if I have 1, 0 of G, what do I have of F?
0.
I have 0, 1. Okay, why do I want to do this?
You know, determine.
So I know what to plug in. Because what do I always want to plug in to the derivative of my original function? The x value of its f. The x value of f is what I want to plug in. So that's why I like to do this, to know what it is I'm going to plug in. So I'm going to plug 0 in. That gave me 6. So then if g prime, that means g prime of 1 has to be 1/6. Now if we do it the other way, it was 1 over f prime of g of x. And I want 1. Okay, so what do we know g of 1 is?
0.
We know g of 1 is 0, so then I want to stick 0 into f prime, which is what we did, which is 6, and it gives me 1/6 as well. So it's doing the same thing. That may help you keep track of what you're doing better. It's up to you. You got to figure out what works best for you and go with it. All right, let's try another.
So you're gonna do ones on our homework, we have to find x.
No.
None?
Nope.
Two.
All right, next one. It says let f be a differentiable function such that f of 3 equals 15, f of 6 equals 3, f prime of 3 equals -8, and f prime of 6 equals -2. The function g is differentiable and g of x equals f to the -1 of x for all x. Write an equation for the line tangent to the graph of g at x equals 3. So, since I want a tangent line, what two things do I need? Do I need slope? And I need
Ordered pair.
a point. I need slope and a point. Alright, so what do we want to do to get started?
What time is it?
Write down my ordered pairs. So I've got F and I have G. So what ordered pairs do I know and what do they belong to?
3 and 15 and 6 and 3.
Alright, so what does 3, 15 belong to?
F.
F. And what else do I have?
6 and 3.
6 and 3. So that means what do I have for G?
15 and 3 and 36.
3 and -8.
15. There we go.
What are the
Why
3
is
and
it
-8? Why aren't those G?
Those are primes.
Oh, that's not prime values.
F prime is G.
No.
F
and
negative
inverse-
1.
inverse
Ah.
is G.
So what is F prime for?
We'll get there. It'll come into play here in just a second. Alright. So at this point, I should be able to see which point, what my point needs to be for my tangent line. What does my point need to be and why? G of that.
3, 6.
3,
So
16.
it needs to be 3, 6. Why, Brock?
X value of G.
Okay.
It's the one that has 3 as the X value of G.
Yeah, it tells me we want the equation of the tangent line where g at x equals 3. Of my ordered pairs, 3, 6 is the one where my x equals 3. So that helps me figure out my point. Alright, now what? I need the derivative. Okay. So I've got two derivatives. I've got f prime of 3 equals -8, and I've got f prime of 6 equals -2. Which one of those am I interested in and why?
6.
Top.
I'm
Because it's
interested
the opposite.
in that one. Somebody tell me why I'm interested in that
Since G is X, I mean,
It's the opposite.
That's the y value of the one that x equals 3 for g.
one. Yeah, I want somebody to explain it a little bit simpler. There's an easy way to explain it, and we talked about it just a few minutes ago.
that's X. 6 is
G.
X.
How do you always determine what you plug into your derivative?
X.
It has to be an x value, right?
X, that's the
So which one of these points do I want? Do I want the 315 or do I want the 6,3?
16.
I want the 6,3 because I'm using 3,6. So that means what has to be plugged in my derivative? 6 does, because 6 is the x value. So that means f prime of 6 equals -2 is the one we want, which means that g prime of 3 equals -1/2. So my slope is -1/2.
Y.
G3.
Alright, why does g prime of 3 equal -1/2?
Because if you
Oh,
have f prime of
because-
6 equals -2, you still have 6.
If you've got the matching ordered pair, what do you know about the derivatives? They have to be reciprocals of each other. So since these are a matching ordered pair, that means f prime of 6 and g prime of 3 have to be reciprocals of each other. And g prime of 6 equals -2. F prime of 6 equals -2, so that means g prime of 3 has to be -1/2. If they are the matching ordered pair, their derivatives have to be reciprocals of each other. So that means I'm going to have y minus 6 equals -1/2 x minus 3. There's my tangent. So when you're doing these inverse problems, what's the most important thing? Kind of two things you want to keep straight. You need the ordered pairs,
Always plug in that x.
and you always plug in your x into the derivative of whatever function you're dealing with. Okay, if I'm dealing with f prime, I want to plug in an x value that belongs to f. If I want g prime, I want to plug in an x value that belongs to g. Okay, keep that straight. All right, let's do one. Hopefully we can get it figured out. I'm doing one from the homework that belongs to a table, and then hopefully you can handle it from there. Alright. So, it says on 1 to 4, use the table and the fact that g of x equals f to the -1 of x to find the solution. So, what are they telling me about g?
Inverse of f.
G is the inverse of f. So, I'm interested in finding g prime of 6. So, somebody walk me through what we need to do to be able to find g prime of 6. Most important thing to do whenever you're dealing with inverse derivatives.
With the
F prime.
x and y's.
Find the
I need to
ordered
find the
pairs.
ordered pairs. That's the first thing I want to do. Okay, so of my ordered pairs, there's one thing they give me to begin with. What is that one thing? What does this? What is this 6?
X value.
Of
G.
that's the x value of g, which means
But that's
Y
the y
value
value
of
of the
it's the y value of f. Now what? I need to find the x value of f.
So it's 4.
4.
So the x value of f is 4, which means the y value of g is 4. Everybody okay on finding that 4?
Yes.
Okay? So now what do I want?
So it's 1 over f prime of 4.
Alright, so I want to find f prime of 4, and f prime of 4 is 7. So that means this solution is 1 7. It's all about keeping track of your ordered pairs, and when you plug into a derivative, you want to plug in the x value that belongs to that function. Okay? Because how did I know to plug in 4 here? Because it's the x value of f. Okay, so that's the main thing you got to keep straight. You need the ordered pairs, and always plug in your x value that goes with your function.